Jak wiecie, niedawno dostaliśmy trailer nowego South Parka, nowej gry i tutaj mam takie mieszane uczucia co do tej gry. Obejrzymy sobie odcinek i ja sobie też z wami porozmawiam na temat tego, czy fani chcą w ogóle gry 3D South Parka.
Not what people expected it to be. Certainly not what I expected it to be. After much speculation and lead up, we were shown South Park Snow Day, a 3D co-op multiplayer game, which is a far cry from the 2.5D RPGs we were given previously. But what exactly is South Park Snow Day? What can we expect out of this massive departure from the previous entry?
Jeżeli mam być szczery, słuchajcie, tutaj, to również się nie spodziewałem tego. Ja oczekiwałem właśnie kontynuacji serii South Parka gier w takiej kreskówkowej wersji stylistyce, a tu będziemy mieli grę w koopie wieloosobową. Do tego ta grafika jakoś nie bardzo mnie przyciąga, jest taka średnia.
Are most fans upset or just a vocal minority? And are they right to feel that way? Let's dive into it. And if you're new here, make sure to check out my other South Park videos. I covered both previous South Park RPGs in super in-depth videos, and they're honestly some of my favorite work. I also cover the series itself and do character evolution and analysis videos. My most recent ones have been on Kenny, Butters, and Ike. Thanks. So obviously the entire game is set around the idea of the South Park kids having a snow day, which I was sort of shocked to realize that despite living in a snowy mountain town, we've never really had an episode set during a snow day, right?
Aha, czyli słuchajcie, ja nie jestem takim wielkim fanem South Parka i nie śledzę. Nie znam się tam bardzo dobrze na tym, natomiast w gry grałem i bardzo lubię ten humor, tak? Szczególnie w grach, gra RPG, South Park jest całkiem spoko.
Why? The trailer begins with the snowflake falling onto South Park before we see Cartman.
It's a snow day, the most magical of days in a young child's life. Yes! Yes!
No to nie jest ładne, to nie jest ładne, zdecydowanie nie jest.
It's a snow day!
Obviously, the reveal trailer doesn't have a ton to go on, but that didn't stop me from rampantly speculating and analyzing. I do find it fascinating that we've returned to the fantasy theme for Cartman, donning his Grand Wizard uniform seen in the Return of the Fellowship to the Two
No właśnie, ja bym wolał coś takiego, szczerze mówiąc.
Towers, the Black Friday trilogy, and of course the Stick of Truth. It does appear from the footage of the game later in the trailer that the weaponry will be more fantasy themed once again. I wonder how much, if at all, this will tie to Stick of Truth. But the new 3D graphics are without a doubt the most notable aspect. This is personally not what I wanted out of a new South Park game. As a massive fan of the series and the way that both Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole looked exactly like the show does, it's jarring to see the series in 3D, but it
No właśnie, ja mam takie same odczucia jak właśnie autor Johnny. Szczerze mówiąc, wolałbym właśnie kreskówkową wersję, taka jaka jest z serialu, a 3D, no nie wiem, jakoś mnie to nie przekonuje. Ta grafika tutaj, ten trailer nie był ładny, dla mnie przynajmniej. To musi też przyciągać wizualnie.
It is actually kind of fitting that the first 3D South Park game in decades takes place on a snow day, since the original back on N64 and PS1 focused heavily on throwing snowballs in their first-person shooter format. It was pretty clear in my previous speculation that my hope for a 3D South Park game was that it would look and feel more like the South Park intro sequence that they've used for the past 10 years or so. This look maintains the paper cutout vibes while moving things into an extra dimension, but what we're looking at here are just full-on 3D models. That being said, there are things about the execution here that I do like. Though the character models are 3D, the movement is still less fluid and more akin to the character movement we see in the series. The eyes, mouths, and general facial expressions still look like they do in the show. We aren't looking
Okej, no tutaj akurat z tym trzeba się zgodzić. Tutaj wygląda to podobnie do serii, więc mamy elementy też takie typowo przypominające kreskówkę, tak?
Got a fully movable 3D mouth here. It's just the exact mouth shapes that are used in the series. This is a bit different than something like the canceled South Park GTA style game that was in development on Xbox years ago. That game mostly maintained the same types of mouth shapes we're used to in the series, but the eyes bulge off the head a bit more, along with other features like facial hair. I think I prefer what they've done here with Snow Day, at least design-wise, especially compared
Też się zgadzam, że jednak to jest jakiś pozytyw tego.
to what Cartman looked like running around South Park in the canceled game. This is much closer to on model, despite the 3D differences. But it is fascinating to see South Park in 3D, and if the game takes place on one giant 3D map of South Park, I think it will be pretty exciting to explore. In fact, I think we'll likely be able to see a ton more locations in this format. I love how you can explore South Park in the
No właśnie, to jest minus, że przy takim formacie raczej nie dostaniemy tyle możliwości eksploracji, co właśnie we wcześniejszych Kiku Prawdy i innych wersjach.
previous games, but the multiple 2D planes basically remove entire halves of streets for locations to be explored. And it seems like they'll have to completely rearrange South Park itself to accommodate this new 3D style of map, and we've seen a little bit of that already in this trailer. We still see Skeeter's wine bar next to Jimbo's guns, as we previously saw in both South Park
O proszę, wyłapali to, czyli jak widzicie mapa będzie prawdopodobnie na podstawie serialu, więc nie będą się różnić i będziemy ją znać też z gier.
Games, but now we can actually see the opposite side of the street shows part of the Italian restaurant Bucche di... well, you know the name. You can tell from the Italian flag color awnings and these arched windows that we've seen on the front of the restaurant previously.
Yeah.
In Fractured But Whole, this restaurant was down the street from Skeeter's and Jimbo's, not across the street. So rearranging for 3 dimensions seems to be occurring already. On top of that, we actually get a tiny glimpse at a location we have only seen in the series one time. As the camera rack focuses from the snowflake, we get a peek at this red and brick building. You can barely see part of the sign up top here, and this is the restaurant Nueva Familia, a Mexican restaurant seen in
To jest ta restauracja tutaj na trailerze. Zobaczcie.
season 19's You're Not Yelping. This is pretty obscure. A location seen in only a single episode is making it into this potentially massive 3D South Park map, which I think bodes well for the level of detail we might be able to see while exploring South Park in 3 dimensions. If Nueva Familia is making the cut, I imagine we'll be seeing an unbelievable number of other locations as well. Comment below on what spots in South Park you'd love to see represented.
Okej, no jeżeli w tej grze będziemy mogli zwiedzać całe miasto, wow. To będzie super, ale wątpię w
In
to.
this massive 3D map. Personally, I hope we can actually go into the mall this time. When the trailer actually dives into the gameplay, we specifically see the town square location, though I've never seen this big town square arching sign in the show, I don't think at least, so that's new. But the designs of the location seem to be designed after season 23's episode Christmas Snow, when they're holding this little Christmas themed
Czyli patrzcie, mamy tutaj nawiązanie do odcinka tego w serialu.
fair or Chris Kindle Mart. We see the same red and white striped tents that are visible in that episode. The Christmas tree is lit up in the background with the words Merry
Tak, to jest
Christmas
to.
arched in front of it. And then in this shot, you can actually see the specific tent that sells cocktails, as seen in that episode as well. So again, they're digging deep into the show to craft inspired areas for us to explore and battle in. But let's talk about that gameplay, which is described as 3D co-op multiplayer. Here's the trailer description. An all-new South Park game is coming in 3D. Join Cartman, Stan, Kyle, and Kenny in 3-dimensional glory to celebrate the most magical day in any young child's life, a snow day. Grab up to 3 friends and battle your way through the snow-piled streets of South Park.
Ciekawe jak to będzie wyglądać, słuchajcie, czy my będziemy mogli w multiplayerze grać z innymi ludźmi? Czyli to nie będzie typowe single player gierka, gdzie byśmy odkrywali fabułę, historię. Ciekawe.
On a quest to save the
Bardziej
world.
na akcję się tutaj nastawiamy.
And enjoy a day without school. Now, when first watching this trailer, I thought for sure this would be a Fortnite-style battle royale game.
Battle Royale? Nie no, ja nie miałem takich skojarzeń.
But after further inspection, I don't see any versus mode showcase so far, so I think I was mistaken. It appears to be pretty focused on the co-op multiplayer, hopefully in a campaign. You can see in these shots
Okej, no ale koop kampanii, chyba że będziemy jakimiś sterować, no mieli boku jakieś boty, nie?
that there are generally 4 players highlighted in green, which are your party members, taking out hordes of NPC kids. And damn, this is violent too. Look at all the blood splatter as you hit these children.
No okej, no brutalne
Not to
jest.
mention that the last part of the description seems to potentially be super story focused and battle your way through the
Okej, czyli jeżeli będzie na historii ta gra oparta jakiejś fabule, to spoko.
snow-piled streets of South Park on a quest to save the world and enjoy a day without school. If this was just a multiplayer versus game, I don't think there would be any kind of quest. It would
No właśnie, jeżeli to będzie multiplayer, no to typowo taki multiplayerowa gra, to nie będzie tutaj żadnej
just be
fabuły.
a team versus game. But it appears this is a game to enjoy cooperatively with your friends, which is probably the aspect that sounds most exciting to me. I'd really love to explore South Park with a group of my friends. The game appears to be sort of co-op hack and slash. It almost looks like the old Gauntlet Legends
Hack and slash? Ciekawe.
games, which I had a ton of fun playing with friends as a kid, but it's still hard to tell what exactly the POV is going to be here. These shots were clearly just specifically captured for the trailer, so I don't know what the camera angle is going to look like when we're actually in gameplay. The last shot is a team of 4 kids running into battle across the holiday fair, and all have super unique outfits, weapons, and this kid on the left seems to have a spinning attack. Hopefully the team builds will mean each character can have a different role in the party. Tank, healer,
Na pewno będzie tak, że będzie podział na klasy. Myślę, że to jest całkiem prawdopodobne, nie?
magic, range, etc., to really give each spot a different vibe and allow for people to play in different styles. It also looks like we'll once again have some pretty significant customization options for our characters. I hope that there are just an obscene number of outfits and hairstyles and weapons to choose from. That made the Fractured But Whole a ton of fun, and differentiating yourself from
Kustomizacja pewnie też będzie, nie ukrywajmy.
your co-op partners will make those options even more crucial. And Cartman yells one last thing before they reveal the 2024 release date.
Hey, new kid! It's a snow day, dude!
New Kid, czyli to jest jakby kontynuacja naszych poprzednich gier.
So this is confirmation that the character you'll be playing as is once again the new kid, introduced in
Tak.
Stick of Truth and seen again in Fractured But Whole and Phone Destroyer, which I'm very glad to see. They should fully be continuing that trend even when the games themselves are varying in style and genre. But I'm definitely curious if this will follow the new kid narrative or his abilities we previously saw. Will there be more about their ability to gain social media followers too quickly? Will their farting abilities make
Ciekawe właśnie, twierdzenie social media, jak było wtedy, wątpię, że coś tam, może będzie coś takiego nawiązanie.
Will those powers disappear? Since they aren't taking the medicine they revealed in Fractured But Whole, will their parents play a role again? We'll see. And lastly, before we get to my personal thoughts, let's just talk about the theme, which I actually love. A snow day is a perfect setting for a South Park game. A day
Skoro to będzie Snow Day, to obstawiam, że ta gra będzie gdzieś na 2024, może luty, styczeń, albo pewnie listopad, grudzień.
when it feels like all rules go out the window and kids rule the streets. It could not be more fitting, and I'm excited to see the kind of stuff they want to do with it. That being said, it actually kind of bums me out that it's being used for this.
Ciężko mi jakby... Wątpię, to będzie jakoś na właśnie końcówkę zimy 2023 albo początek 2024, nie? Czyli styczeń, luty, listopad, grudzień, no bo co, taka gra o takiej tematyce w lecie, w wakacje, to tak średnio.
This style of game, because this actually feels like it could have been another amazing setting for an RPG like the previous two games, which sort of brings me to my feelings on the game.
Ja bym wolał właśnie RPG tutaj gierkę.
I think there are things about this game that look cool and that excite me for its possibilities, but Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole were such perfect extensions of South Park the series.
Tak.
I can't think of a single other game experience adapted from another type of media that felt like I was actually in that piece of media. And that was something I really wanted.
Zgadzam się całkowicie z tym, co właśnie Johnny powiedział. No, te poprzednie gry były naprawdę super i miało się wrażenie, że uczestniczyło się w serialu.
Continue moving forward. So, though I don't mind South Park branching into other types of gaming experiences, I also really hope that this isn't all we see in the video game realm from South Park moving forward. I would be really sad if we didn't get another RPG in this series, and it seems like the reactions to this game so far have echoed this sentiment. There are tons of tweets and comments about how the 3D style is sort of a bummer to see after they previously captured the South Park art style so perfectly. But with the huge surge in popularity for South Park over the last year, a co-op gaming experience is sort of hitting at the exact right time. I'm pretty eager to see how some of the other characters translate into 3D. So far, we've really only seen Cartman and the new kids. I do think that the most exciting possibility for South Park Snow Day is the ability to explore a fully 3D rendered South Park map with your friends.
No to jest fajne, że w 3D dostaniemy mapę miasta w South Parku. Dodatkowo te nowe postacie, te nowe dzieci, które on tam wymienił, wydaje się, że to są po prostu zmiana wyglądu graczy.
That alone is reason enough for me to be marking my calendar for the release date. I'm really excited to squad up with some South Park
Ja
homies.
też z chęcią sprawdzę na moim kanale do gameplay.
But I really hope that we have
grę.
another South Park RPG on the horizon. Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole are honestly two of my absolute favorite pieces of media in the entire franchise, but you can definitely expect me to talk about Snow Day leading up to and following its release. I really hope it delivers a fun, unique South Park experience with a fun story and campaign. But what do you think? Is Snow Day what you wanted out of South Park sequel?
No ja, słuchajcie, sceptycznie podchodzę do tego, że to jest 3D. Są tego plusy i minusy. Ja jako gracz tamtych poprzednich gierek wolałbym stylistyce tego serialu. Chciałbym, żeby to było RPG. Zobaczymy, co z tego wyjdzie. I chciałbym, żeby była ta gra nastawiona na fabułę, na historię jakąś, którą opowie ta gra przechodząc. Tak jak wcześniej mieliśmy te smaczki różne i tak dalej. Zobaczymy. No, jestem szalenie ciekaw i to jest, co się wydarzy. Mam pewne nadzieje. Mam nadzieję, że się nie zawiodę. Dajcie znać, co wy o tym myślicie. W międzyczasie zapraszam do sprawdzenia moich innych filmów i pogadanek. Trzymajcie się i ciepło was serdecznie pozdrawiam.